Hey everyone, quick editor's note before you jump into this episode of Beyond Real Estate. Our guest, Tish, was having some technical difficulties with our software. Because of that, you'll find throughout this episode there are times where there are quick cuts or kind of thoughts are stopped in the middle. That is not because there was anything bad happening on our side, but technology did get in the way. So wanted to make you aware of that. As I'm editing this now, I can see how much we really did lose. Didn't expect this much. So it's really a bummer. We really enjoyed Tish being on, and we'll have to get it on in the future to actually talk all the way through some of the thoughts that she had and the great information she was giving us. Hope you enjoyed this very informational episode, and please don't forget to rate, subscribe, and share it. All right. Let's jump right to the episode.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us today on Beyond Real Estate with Jalen, where we strive to edutain. That is, educate a little and entertain more. Here we discuss topics surrounding dad life, brief discussion of the current hot topic in the real estate industry, and then end it all up with the business bookend. Before we start getting to know someone else just a little better.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us today on another podcast. Gosh, Jay, what is this, number 13?
Yeah, on Friday
there
the 13th.
We go. Wow.
It's amazing.
So we planned this out weeks back, and we said, how can we get our 13th episode on Friday the 13th? Here we are. It's live and it's real. So we have another guest on this week. Excited to welcome Tish Grace with us, and her job is to rid the world of suck. So without any further ado there, Tish, can you expand a little bit?
Elaborate on that?
Yeah.
So there is a whole lot of suck in the world, unfortunately. And most of us experience said suck when we're interacting with things online, or we're interacting with businesses that just don't give a suck, or some things of that nature, right? And so as a brand experience designer, which is my official term, I work with businesses to help them rid that suck, so that when people visit their sites, you don't want to rip your hair out. You're like, why can't I find this thing? You know, or if you go into the business and you actually come out going, man, that was awesome. Why aren't more things like that, right? That's what I do. And a lot of times that involves looking at what your branding is, what your messaging is, how are you actually planning the outcomes you want for your customers, and then how can we translate that into what your marketing looks like so it's a consistent and cohesive thing throughout.
Versus it's sucking.
But versus suck, which, man, I have, there is piles of work to do. It's just convincing people that they suck is hard.
I can only imagine convincing someone that, especially when you, I mean, like any of us that build our own websites or something, and you just spend hours and hours on it, and then someone comes in, they're like, I don't know what you were doing, but it's awful. That's all I got to tell you is it's bad, and this is horrible. You're like, okay, so 24 hours of my life has just been wasted, apparently. Thanks, Tish.
That's why you should hire people to do that. Yeah. I often, when I'm at networking meetings or whatever, and people are like, so what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I tell people their shit sucks and their babies are ugly and they pay me a lot of money to fix it. And they're like, really? And I'm like, trust me, it's fun.
Brilliant. Well, on this show, we try to make things suck a little bit less. In whether that's being a parent, everyone can suck as a parent at certain times. Which when you're having to tell someone that their baby is ugly, like you alluded to there, and I think that you can, especially for today, you can definitely relate to being like, oh yeah, I can see the progress of people sucking a little bit less as a whatever it is for that you're building that brand experience for. So I think that today we're going to be discussing in the hashtag dad life. The official wording for it is seeing the development in kids, but small changes equal big improvement over time. But I think that I also want it to be turned to seeing that growth, not just in parenting, but also in your clients' development as they slowly kind of get things like, oh my gosh, they're so cute, they're taking their baby steps. You are posting to TikTok. Oh, you are doing it properly. Oh, there's consistency. Oh my gosh, how amazing. So yeah, on that note, Nick, what comes to mind when you think of seeing the development in kids? Diego, I know we've talked about him rolling a few weeks
Right.
ago. So where's his development when it comes to just being a tiny person?
Yeah. Then to go down that path first, he's still in that space. He's on, I don't know if he's on the verge of crawling yet, but um, seeing the small improvements. So I'll hit the rewind button there in his short life here on this planet. I mean, going from just a newborn, right, that just is there to figuring out his body, and he starts moving things around a little bit, and then he starts seeing you, right? So then he starts having those reactions, and then he starts hearing things, and he starts, where did that noise come from? And now he's starting to mimic your facial expressions more. You know, you can start laughing or just smiling in general, right? And he starts, he's like a human mirror of, you're doing that, so I'm going to do that, right? So and actually, as we speak, we have a little playpen set up for him, and Bree and Grandma are in the living room, and they're anxious for him to get to those crawling stages. But it's neat, right? As you said, it's that consistency of putting
Yeah.
him in those environments day in and day out, and you hope and you're excited when he makes that next progression. You're like, that was cool. And of course, then after crawling, maybe he hits the rewind button and doesn't there for a little bit, but inevitably he'll learn to walk, right?
Yeah.
So it's
And
neat.
then it's
It's
off to the
neat
races.
to see it from a human side, because Tish will of course touch on the human side. That same concept, different perspective to see it from. So
Yeah. Yeah. And following up on the human side, the tiny human side of things, yeah, it's definitely important too, as someone that facilitates that development. Oh, there we go. As someone that facilitates that development, we've told the story before of Emerson's flat back of the head. And that is because we did not facilitate making sure that when you do tummy time, you actually do tummy time, even if they roll themselves over. And then you slowly realize, man, that kid's on his back a lot. And that's why you can place a glass on the back of his head if he were to bend over. It's perfectly flat. So with a nice haircut, you can't tell, but it bugs me when I feel the back of his head sometimes. I'm like, well, that's a forever parenting mistake that I have to deal with, and he has to deal with longer. So
Jalen, your child is a blockhead. Oh my God, you're good.
Literally.
You could forever be like, blockhead. You're such a blockhead, and you're absolutely right.
I knew I should have rolled you over. This is my own fault.
Right?
Yeah. So that's that goes to it's our job to facilitate. So kind of changing directions on that, because I think little kids, it's kind of easy. We have all experienced it, where we see kind of the stages of, yes, they crawl. I mean, we use it as like a continual analogy as we go through whatever. Well, first you got to crawl, and then you got to walk, and then you're running. And so when it comes to the business side of things, Tish, what are the kind of the walking, crawling, running that you see from a client's perspective when you're like, your shit sucks? I'm going to be using the bleep so many times on this. So we try to claim on Apple Podcasts that we don't curse on here too. No explicit content. So I'll be using the bleep, but that's okay. But yes. Tish.
So, well, I just want to hop on half a second with the kid thing.
Mhm.
I have the furry children.
Yes.
And my second oldest cat, he's 12. His name is also Diego.
Oh.
And I have gone through the growing phases with Diego. And we also have a almost 2-year-old shitten.
I don't know if I have to bleep that out or not.
I don't know. It's kind of a put together word there. She's wonderful. Her name is River, and just like her name, she flows everywhere. And watching her learn the words of not just no, but like this and that, and her
Yep.
different reactions, and like her teaching me to do things because they train us. She went from just being a complete terror and attacking all the other cats in the house when she was hungry to now she goes over to the can that's got a plastic lid on it, and she picks it up with her mouth and throws it on the floor. And that is the universal symbol for I need to eat now. And so I'm like, okay, cool, I got it. So watching all that, it's a thing, it's a process, right? But switching gears to your point of in business and working with the humans, yeah, when I first start working with people, usually, so I joke about, well, it's really hard to tell people their stuff sucks because they don't want to hear it. But most clients that come to me, they know their stuff sucks. They either know doing it will suck,
Yeah.
or they've been doing it, and I like to say skinning their knees a lot. To your like learning to walk, they're skinning their knees a lot, and once they've skinned their knees a couple times, and maybe they've been to ER and they've hemorrhaged a whole bunch of cash, and they're like, you know what, this isn't working. I need to really get a better understanding of what that is. That's when they at least start to see the light. The light is a tiny pinpoint. It is very far away, but they start to see the light. And so when we first sit down and we're talking through, like, well, who are you and who are your clients and stuff like that, and they're like, my clients are between the age of 35 and 45, and they're women that drive minivans, and they have 2 kids, and like that. And I'm like, no, like, who are these people? Like, why do they get up and do this stuff in the morning? Like, what prompted them in the first place to do this, and then eventually decided that they needed to search for or reach out to somebody for the specific thing you do, right? Like, nobody wakes up in the morning out of the blue and goes, God damn, I need to go find myself a mortgage. Like, it just doesn't happen, right? Geez, you know what? I got a hankering for a second house. No, that never happens, right? There's like a whole series of things that happen before that.
Yep.
And it's the same thing of like when I'm talking to my clients and we're like, well, what happened before that? And what happened here? And all of a sudden they're like, oh, wow, I could have. And I'm like, yeah. And that's the, like, oh, look, they rolled over. Oh, look, I'm like, that's right. That's right. And then, but just like with kids, once they start to walk, right? And they do stuff and they face plant, and everybody laughs and everybody cheers. And they might be crying. They might not be crying. It depends on the kid, right?
Yeah.
Some kids are like, it was funny. And some kids are like, oh my God, that was the most horrible thing to eat carpet ever.
That's a client that just spent $1,000 on a marketing campaign that got 2 people looking at it.
The crying one's that one. The other one's like, oh, I tried this and it didn't get any posts, and that's okay. I'm just out the 20 minutes it took me to post it, right?
Yeah.
So, but just like that, watching them go through that and start to figure it out authentically for themselves is spectacular. And I have had a couple clients recently figure their stuff out, and they just took it and ran with it. They didn't like check in with me, or they didn't need to like hold my hand or anything. They just did it, and they're like, was it okay? It's okay. I'm like, yes, of course it was okay.
Yeah, get out there.
It's amazing. That's what you're supposed to do. Like, this is we're changing how your mindset is and what you think about this stuff, from being, I have to do my marketing, to, oh, wow, look at this cool thing I can do for my customers. And, oh, man, they totally need this because I've thought about this. And, and, oh, I'm so excited to help them do these, blah, 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 right?
I love that.
It's just a whole different concept than, I'm doing my marketing, I'm looking at my analytics, my email, I must do my newsletter and I can't think of anything. None of that occurs when you're actually instead like thinking about, wow, how can I help them with this outcome? Where is it they're going after here? Where is it they're coming from? Oh, we haven't talked about where they're coming from here in a while. Let's talk about that.
That sounds almost like it's a perception change. They almost have to change their perception. So is there? I mean, with kids, it's straightforward. You're just like, kid, crawling is inefficient. Walking, you can tell that's inefficient, especially if they have like a younger sibling. And you're like, look at your brother, he's sprinting. They're like, I need to learn to sprint quicker. And so, how do you change that perception for someone when it comes to marketing in particular?
So this is a good story from the Wayback Machine. I don't know, like 7 or 8 years ago, right when I went out on my own and formed the business and everything. I was at I'm just going to say it. It's my mafia group. I'm part of an Italian American business association. We call it the mafia group. So anyway, I was at my mafia group and I was talking about all this. Yes, you can't refuse. Yes, it's a thing. Okay, you would laugh going to these things because it is everything you think it would be. So anyway, I'm giving a presentation talking about social media and stuff and how to do it better and not suck at it, and all the different ways you can still market and what's dead and what's working. And this guy gets up in the back and he's all, well, I make all my salespeople cold call and do this, and it's a numbers game, and they have to do this, that, and something else. And so you're telling me that cold calling people means that I'm not going to grow my business. And I looked at him like, yeah. And he went, well, how can you say that if they're making this many calls and this and that? And I'm like, what's the churn? And he's like, what? And I'm like, who on earth wants to be called out of nowhere and ask these things? And then even if you talk them into it, how are they going to feel after that? Are they going to feel good about it? Chances are no, they are not going to feel good about it. So even if you talk them into buying your widget of whatever, even if it is like the freaking Holy Grail, people are going to be like, I bought this Holy Grail from this guy and I felt really pressured and it was all gross and I can't, it's a great Grail, but I can't tell you to buy it from these guys. Go find a different one. That's what happens, dude. And he was just like, I'm out. I'm like, okay, fine. You can be in your like super dinosaur land of how things work. But before there was telemarketing, before there was social media in the sense of we have it now, we've actually had it a really long time, but that's a different discussion. Before we have all the advertising and everything else, business is done on relationships. Business is still done on relationships until the bots come and Skynet takes over and throws us all in the matrix and we're powering everything else. We are still doing business with people at the end of the day.
Yep.
Even if you can't see them. And so when you're just doing this robotic, stuff, of course it's not going to work or it's not going to have the results. And you're going to hate doing it too, unless that's your like favorite thing to do is just call strangers out of the blue. Hey, is your refrigerator running? Okay.
Yeah. Prince Albert in a can.
Right. Yeah. I know. It's just, anyway. So yeah. So it usually people are already open to the suggestion
They know
of
there's
changing
something
their
better.
perception. So it's just a matter of showing them what can be, right? It's kind of like taking a crystal ball and going, but you could have this. And they're like, oh, ooh, I want that. Like, my brother can run. Why can't I run? Look, you too can do this. But not from a competitive standpoint, not from your competition is doing this and you should copy it.
Yeah.
Nope. Never. Yeah. You need to be aware of what your competition is doing, but you should never be copying your competition. If you think about it, like, I'm a huge F1 fan. So, yay.
Ferrari. Yeah.
Ferrari.
I saw Ferrari was your favorite sports team. I was like, okay, so F1.
Yeah, I love the F1. I have many comments on that. But for example, in Formula One, the greatest drivers, the drivers who win, are aware of the other cars on the track and what they're doing, but they're not copying what they're doing. They're either reacting or proacting, and they have a strategy and they're doing all this stuff, but they don't base everything they're doing off of, oh, gee, so Ferrari doesn't come out and go, well, let's just look at what Red Bull's doing and we'll do exactly that, but we'll do it faster. No, that's not going to work. We'll just spend more money. No, that's not going to work either. But this is what people do in business all the time. And that's why they're in the middle of the pack and there's a wreck and they all end up in the crap. And so.
And then they suck.
The whole thing.
Yeah. And then they suck.
And why they suck. Yes. Anytime you are pretending to be someone else, it's going to suck unless your job is like actually impersonating.
I think another interesting piece with regards to when kids bringing it back to like that life, but also in the business world, is when someone starts excelling, it really doesn't mean anything unless you can sustain it. Right. Like, so thinking of a kid and parents, I've heard like, oh my God, my kid is already walking and they're only however many months old. Right. Maybe they've started walking before they're one. It's like, but it doesn't matter because that advantage goes away. And if you're young in your business, maybe you're killing it. in your first year, your first 2 years. It's like, good for you, good. But we all know here, it's your challenge now is, can you sustain that and stay relevant?
Show me where you're going to be in 3
Yeah.
years. Show me where you're going to be in
Right.
7. Show me where you're going to be in
Right.
15. That's the trick, is how do you, and it's not even necessarily sustaining, but adapting to the changing track weather technology conditions that are out there, right? I mean, so how do you work with that? I mean, you could be, if we go back to Formula One, Mercedes has dominated the past bunch of years, like 6-7 years, and not a Mercedes fan, gonna say it. But it has become wildly obvious that if you just don't have the super bestest car out there, some drivers aren't nearly up to the hype that everybody says they are. And so there's other drivers doing amazing things in lesser cars. And then you can see it's about their drive, it's about their talent, it's about their skills. And it's not just about, I have the newest technology. Oh, I'm good right now. It's they're continuing to evolve. And that's really the term we're talking about here, is evolving. Right?
Absolutely.
100%.
So, yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And so on that, I think that we're slowly devolving, and a lot of people are probably going to have a lot of like, okay, so how do you then do this? Which is a great question to have. How do you differentiate yourself in a very crowded market and kind of advance yourself? So you're gonna have to stick around after a very short break, where we're gonna dive exactly into that topic as we round off the dad life. There we go. We've talked so much business, which is like, it's all stuff that I'm like, okay, I need to take notes on. But at the same time, it's like, oh yeah, parenthood. It's just like this. Your baby's ugly sometimes, and I think no one else should have to tell you that. We should all be able just to have that self-realization. And your baby being your business sometimes. So let's now take a very short break and then jump right into how to differentiate yourself in one of those very hot, contested markets where you're dealing with a million people in the exact same industry. So see you back in a few seconds. Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast so far. Wanted to let you know about something free Nick and I are giving to every single one of our listeners, and that is HomeBot. HomeBot is a free monthly real estate digest. You can know the value of your home, or if you're looking for a home and don't want to be bombarded by realtors giving you calls and mortgage lenders, a free tool that lets you look at what is currently happening in your real estate market. Check the link below and be sure to sign up today. All right, let's jump back into Beyond Real Estate with Jalen.
Hey everyone, thanks for coming back with us here in Real Estate Roundup. And we wanted to jump into the topic.
Nick, 1 second. You just keep going, but I have our, let me just make this live, and then. This is the song that I was like, Nick, do you know Woody's Roundup from Toy Story 2?
Yep. Restart it then.
Oh, this is it. This is it right here.
So thank you for coming back with us into Real Estate Roundup here. And we wanted to address the topic, absolute two goons here, address the topic of how to differentiate yourself in a saturated market. And I think for any of us in any profession, you probably can relate to that in some shape, way, or form. So me being in the real estate space, Jay, you're in the mortgage space, Tish, marketing space. Yeah. Ish.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you have competition, right? So how is it when everybody's in the same industry? And well, Nick, you're in real estate, so isn't every real estate agent the same and can't they buy and sell my house? Short answer is yes. But Jay, I'll throw that question at you first. How do you differentiate in a saturated market?
I become the most person mortgage advisor out there. So I try to separate myself from I am Jalen that does mortgages. I'm not a mortgage lender named Jalen. So that's always my goal is trying to be like, remember, I'm a human. I'm a dad. I enjoy baseball. I'm a goober that dances
at my wedding
randomly
like a crazy man.
Oh, and there was a lot of alcohol involved in that.
That would be Tuesday.
Woof. Yes, I'm glad that I made an impression on you with my dancing. Yeah, if anyone needs to liven up a party, just call me and offer free alcohol. So yeah, that's yeah, just try to be different, because that's all things that Rocket Mortgage, that whatever Quicken Loans can't be, because they can't be Jalen. And so that's what I try to sell more so than anything, is like, yeah, I'm a great guy. I want to be your advisor, and I do mortgages. Like, perfect. So with that being said, though, Tish, I always thought that I was a genius with that. But it's from a brand from a branding area of that viewpoints. What are your thoughts on that, and where am I wrong? How is my baby ugly?
Well, you can continue to think you're a genius. I mean, you can think whatever you want, right?
I have no confidence that.
Oh no. Well, see, yes, you're right. You know, I'm Jalen who does mortgages, not a mortgage guy named Jalen, right? That's I would call that like the bottom tier of starting point. You have to start by like,
Yeah.
I am my own thing. I am not trying to fit in and trying to do all this other stuff. There are, of course, systems and things that, I mean, especially you've got some regulation things. Real estate has regulation things. There's stuff you have to follow to be a good whatever it is you do, right?
Yeah.
Standard operating procedure, whatever. But the thing is, since everybody has to do that, saying you're the best one at that is just like what we were talking about earlier with the evolving of, okay, yeah, you're doing great now, but then what? Like what comes next? And so it's a matter of two things. First thing is, what is it you really love, enjoy, and excel at in what you do? And how does that mesh with what is it your people need, want, and can relate to? Okay, what's relatable?
Yeah.
The term relatability is really the hugest term I can use here. Relevancy is another huge term, right? How is this even relevant? So like, I'm Jalen the mortgage broker. Oh, okay, that's relevant because I'm thinking about buying a house. But if you're not thinking about buying a house, you're irrelevant. It doesn't matter what you say after this. I am like, yeah, that's nice, not buying a house. You know, I'm like, yeah, listening. And it's just, you know, right through there, right? So instead, you want to think about, all right, well, what are people thinking about? So you might be like going, oh, okay, what are people thinking about right now? Just as an example, the R word, racing. No. Recession, right? Recession.
I knew it. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, I'm always thinking about racing. Awesome word. Anyway, recession, right? Everybody's like, all right, we got inflation, recession's probably coming. What am I going to do with my money? Oh my God, the mortgage rates are up. The other word, refi, is no word in people's vocabulary right now, because they're like, well, why would I trade in my 2, 3, or 4 something for 5+, right? Like, why would I do that? So that doesn't work. Instead, conversations can be more about, well, what do you know about helping people get the most out of what they have already going, right? How do you best survive a recession of, well, oh shit, there's your beep again. How do I can't refi to lower my payments, but with the stuff going on, my money isn't going as far. This could happen, that could happen. How do I protect myself? So if you're now talking about that, it's nothing to do technically with mortgages, but you're talking about how the mortgage piece fits into that. And, you know, if there's stuff you're like, I can't talk about any of these things because I'm not the expert on that, find someone who's a buddy of yours and do this kind of a thing, right? And then have them, because then you're like, I heard that on Jalen. Jalen had this great, he had great ideas, and I'm going to call him and ask him about blah, blah, blah. And then the next time somebody's saying that, oh, well, you are going to refi, you are going to buy it. You should talk to Jalen because he knows exactly how to do this, and he's got a buddy, and they can tag team, and now you are relevant. Now
Oh
you are
yeah,
differentiated in a market.
that
Okay.
makes sense. So is that one of the biggest things that you see a lot of people that are in a crowded market kind of lack is finding
Oh God,
relevance?
yes. Oh, it's horrific. It
Okay.
is so bad. So, and then they try to do it, and they try to. So when if you go to my website, which isn't quite finished yet because the cobbler has no shoes, because I'm always working on everybody else's, and then by the time I get done with that, I'm like, really, oh God. Anyway, but if you go to my website, I do have an entire section that talks about the 3 key things of having an exceptional brand experience, being able to stand out in the market and differentiate and getting the referrals and people becoming brand advocates for you. And that's being relevant, radiant, and relatable. So most people focus on radiant. How can I stand out? And so they go and they buy an expensive logo and they make all their stuff match. And there's even I have a story about a guy that used to show up in costume. He would dress up as different things at networking events. So he'd be like Superman and Big Bird and this and that. And he's like, look, I am radiant. I am differentiated. And it's like, so you're going to show me houses in a chicken suit? Like, how is that actually relevant?
Preferably.
Right? How is that relatable? If I don't know who Cookie Monster is because of whatever, how is that even, So it doesn't get anywhere. However, I have a very close friend of mine who actually sold us our house. She is a mid-century modern expert. Her name is Kimber Dempsey. She is a realtor. She specializes to the nth degree on vintage homes. She knows all the old stuff inside out. She knows all the different architects. She knows what's been historically designated. She knows the history behind all this stuff. So if you're into that stuff, if you're like, oh yeah, Mad Men was an excellent era and I totally want to have that like super kishy 60s looking house, she's the one to talk to. Or if you own that and you're like, well, nobody else understands it. And I keep talking to realtors and they keep telling me to paint my stupid, beautiful brick fireplace gray and all of my stuff needs to be plastic flooring. And I don't understand because I've got all this cool vintage stuff I've preserved for all these years. It was my mom's house. Yeah, of course they don't. They need that because they're in a very specific thought process, right? And so it is extraordinarily easy to refer her to the right people because has different. And to my brother who sold his house with her because he had a mid-century modern. And I'm like, look, you need to talk to Kimber. And he was like, she's the only one that could tell me cool things about my house that I didn't know. Like he knew a lot. She knew more. That impressed him. But B, he was like, when she walked in, she looks like a mid-century modern house because she's all dressed in 50s vintage, right? Like, who are you going to trust? So she's got all 3 of the things going on. She's got relevancy to her clientele. She's radiant in how she looks, and she's got this whole thing. She's got big teal hair, right? And she's relatable because people want to talk about this stuff and they want to know more and they want to understand the historic. I mean, she can right now, if you don't need to sell a house, she can tell you about how to historically designate it or what to and not to update.
Yeah.
Tish, I have a question regarding that individual. Does she have a presence within social media space?
Her Instagram is huge. Her Instagram.
What does that look like for her occupying that? Like how differentiated does she get with regards to her specific niche that she's filled in real estate versus this is me, this is who else I am,
so because she is so into vintage, like this is her personal life completely bleeding over into what she does. Okay. So there is almost no delineation between what she does for sport and fun. Like she'll go look at vintage houses even when she's not working because she's like, holy crap, vintage house, right? She's at estate sales. She just came back, or she's going to Tiki Oasis in San Diego, which is this huge tiki celebration. Like there's no thing. So anything she's talking about personally that she loves is bleeding over into her brand. And because she's passionate about that, it all does it. And so people follow her because they love the same things and share that same passion, not because they want to necessarily buy a house. But then when they think about it, she's the first person they call, right? So it's just, I have a mortgage friend, different mortgage friend than Jalen, But his specialty is specifically working with small business owners in doing their stuff who are running 2 or more businesses. They don't have like the working W-2 spouse, and so it makes it really difficult to do things, right? That's he can do amazing things with that stuff. So that's what he talks about all the time. But you've got to have that thing that's really relevant and relatable, and then find that, well, how do I stand out that way with that in my own, like, dad things? Cool. I'm the dad that actually will talk about how to make it so that your kids have a great growing up and don't feel like they lack anything, right? Maybe it has to do with mortgage. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. So that was a lot of me talking. I should stop talking.
No, you're good. When you have something valuable to say, who's the fool? The one that tries to direct the conversation somewhere else, or the person that just lets good information keep flowing? So that's how I'm justifying what just happened. Nick, on that one, she used mortgages and a realtor primarily there. Any other questions that you have? I know that social media for both of us has been a larger focus, and so it's like,
if I was going
Yep, good.
if I was going to give you guys
to just take some notes and
anyone, not just you guys. I mean, it's particularly true with realty and stuff. Find the channel you like and enjoy, and only do that. Don't be everywhere all the time and all the things, because then it's just like you're diluting. You've got this super potent thing, right? It's like perfume. You've got this super potent perfume, and you just need a tiny little drop, but it does amazing thing. And as soon as you like put that all over the place, one of 2 things happens. Either it's so diluted nobody can smell it, or you walk in the room and everybody's like, "Oh dear God, please, what did you do?" Like, either
it's everywhere.
Reaction is bad, right? So it's social media is a lot like a spice. It's a lot like perfume. It's you want to have it in the exact spot, in the exact potency, and then keep consistent with it and work it in a way that is authentic and works well for you. So like, I'm on LinkedIn because that's what works well for me. I like LinkedIn. It doesn't feel as social media-y as some things, But for my car club, I'm pretty heavy into the Pinterest. So, for sharing car pictures and things like that. And for my mid-century.
So you're not saying don't do multiple social media platforms. You're saying find the platform that facilitates maybe certain information.
You don't want to do multiple things. It's that you need to do a couple things really well. So don't be everywhere. Like, give everyone, "Oh, I'm on all the things." I'm like, "Do you post all the things?" "Well, no." And I'm like, "Well, then one channel looks completely dead. The other channel's got a ton of stuff that's not relevant. How is that trustworthy?" Right?
Yeah. Yep. That's fair. And on that note, someone's like, "Oh, that makes sense. So how do you fix that if you've already created something that's almost not trustworthy because you've just bombarded it with something with non-relevant stuff?" Is there a way to then be like, "Well, okay, here's what I'm going to, in order to create, I want to focus on Instagram. I want to focus on YouTube. I want to focus on blog posts."
So
Perfect.
if you've done poor things or things that don't work, you want to first look at, are any of these maybe salvageable if I went in and edited the blog post, or went in and edited the Facebook post, or went in and kind of tweaked stuff, right? If that answer is no, this is a dumpster fire of crap, then then that's a matter of, all right, you got a couple options. Option 1 is you just walk away. You're like, "Okay, that handle, that channel, that whatever, we're done." Like, I'm just, you could leave it up. Maybe it's just fun to have with your buddies.
Hey everybody, just wanted to let you know, regardless of how you want to learn about the real estate market, I have you covered. If you want to read about it, I've got a blog. If you want to listen to it, you're doing it right now. You can watch me on my YouTube channel. And if you want to experience it, I can help you personally navigate the real estate space. Regardless of how you want to stay informed or experience real estate, I got you covered. Just reach out at your convenience. Hopefully we'll talk soon.
Well, Nick, we never got to know what number 2 was. Oh gosh. But I think on this note, it's also important to kind of reflect. So I do want to reflect on how I'm going to be implementing some of the stuff that Tish was talking about, because there's always two different ways of going about things. It's well, the biggest thing is, yeah, you can learn from great people and amazing people, and oh wow, it's fantastic. But then at the end of the day, if you don't have a way to implement it and to make your business better or make yourself better, then it was wasted time for you and whoever's time you wasted by just hearing them talk and let it just go right at the other ear. So I think for me, it's going to come down to just selecting a few different platforms and focusing more on those. Relevancy is important. Yeah. And then finding things that are relevant to what's going on in the world versus just what's going on in the area that I'm, if I'm like, I don't want to talk just about mortgages, Colorado, or, it's, well, what's going on that's relevant in Colorado. And that will, I think the point of that, from my understanding, is that you're now catching on to kind of the hype train of what's going on. And so you're kind of attaching yourself to that. So when people are finding more specific things of what's going on in Colorado right now, then what you're writing on is now becoming, is now coming to the top.
Sure.
So, Nick, what are you going to take away from this conversation? Because both of us are in very filled markets.
Right. One, that human skills will always have a place. Our abilities to relate, our ability to dissect information. I think no matter how much technology evolves, it's always going to lack your relationships, right? Technology is based on what really the past, and they're pumped with numbers. And I think us as humans have the ability to connect, and have empathy, understand where somebody else is coming from, and then be able to relate to them. I think those are aspects that will never be replaced. And then the ability to adapt. Tish had touched on that ability to adapt with the times, and she gave her example with the cold calling.
I think, again, to the point of, we really covered what the book of the week that we are going to be talking about was going to be. The biz bookend was going to
Marketing
be
Rebellion.
Marketing Rebellion. Any departing words on that last jumbo section is what I'm going to call it.
I think it's important for everybody to keep in mind to continue to build and adapt, right? And I know Tish jumped on that one a while back in this, but I think it's important to bring back right now, in that you need to change and be willing to change to stay relevant. Because if you don't like change, you're going to like being irrelevant even less. And with that being said, it's you guys kept coming back to this, is it's being human, right? It's not just having things on cruise control and I set it and forget it. And it's continually being able to adjust a little bit, tweak a few things, and then the ability to reflect and say, again, what is working and what's not working. And sometimes you need to throw in the towel when things really aren't working, versus saying someday it will. And for some things, you do just need to tweak a couple things, and you can keep the bigger spectrum. So no, I appreciate the time, Tish.
That's all we have. So before we let you go, want to say thank you for joining us today, even though we had some technical difficulties. Nick, you get the final wherewithal to lead us out of here with your word salad that I can never reproduce.
Guys, thank you for listening wherever you might be listening. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We'll catch you next week. Want to see, hear, or listen to more of Nick's take on California real estate market? Check out my links below.
Also, check out the links below for more information on products, books, or references made in this podcast. And please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.